There we go. Now it's working. Good morning. How's it going? Just gonna light my sage as I always do. I trust you all had a good weekend. Hello, hello. How's it going? Lighting this sage bundle. Good morning, Alexandria. Did you have a good weekend? Hi, Brad. Good morning. Hi, Julie. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Lori. Nice to see you. Aiden is still wearing that shirt you gave him, Lori. He loves it. The Archangel Michael one. He put it on this morning. I said, "You don't fit that shirt anymore." And he goes, "It's my favorite." I was like, "Well, if you bend over, it doesn't cover much." I told him it's the last day he can wear it. But he's got a hoodie over it, so it should be fine. But yes, thank you, Lori. Nice to see you all. Good morning. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Katie. Hi, Derek. Hi, Natasha. Hi, Karen. Hi, Matthew. Hi, Anton. Hi, Natasha. Hi, Chrissy. Amy's here. Hi, sweetie. Good morning. I'm still waking up. I don't know about you guys, but the energies have been kind of weird the last few days. And so I have not been, I've been sleeping okay, but I've not been feeling rested. How about you guys? Lots of solar flares. In fact, I'm going to check out these flares right now and see what is going on. Did we get any new ones since holy shit. So just for the perspective, just to give you an idea of what we've been dealing with, yeah, you guys might be feeling a little off. Keep an eye out for auroras with all that high geomag right there. So you might be feeling weird. You might be feeling a little burned out, exhausted, a bit ungrounded. So if you keep waking up at weird hours of the morning and things like that, yeah, it could be that you're very sensitive to the energies right now. And there's a lot of chaos in regards to energies. So if you're feeling a bit weird, especially when you're first waking up in the morning, that might explain why. You're kind of acclimating to the day. Yes, spring is here. We're very happy for that here, at least in the northern hemispheres. We're very grateful. That's why I got my tulips back there. Very excited about the spring flowers. And the fact that seasonal affective disorder is almost over with for another 6 to 8 months. I don't know about you guys, but if I don't be able to spend time outside in the sun, I feel like a shell of myself after a while. You get that cabin fever kind of vibe. So I spent almost all day yesterday walking around a lake. It was a beautiful day. So spent half the day chasing beasties and half the day walking around a lake. It was lovely. So hope you guys managed to get out in some of that nice weather that lasted 5 minutes yesterday. At least here. I know Kat was telling me it was 100 degrees in Texas, so it's a little different for you Texans right now and those of you down south. But up here in the north, we are very excited to see the sun. It's good to see you all as well. I didn't even finish plunging my coffee this morning because that's the kind of morning it's been. How about you guys? Anything interesting and unique happening this weekend? Anything worth asking about, chatting about? Adriana had a walk on the beach. Lovely. Hi, Matthew. Matthew had something to say. Hi, Laura. I'm feeling blocked on everything I do, like meditation and stuff. I'm waiting on SRT and mediumship reading from you. Will you be able to tell if I am? Yes. Yes, we will be able to put that in the report. We'll let you know. In the chakra section, it'll tell you what your chakras were doing. If they were blocked or unbalanced or misaligned or completely shut down, we let you know that. A lot of times the blockages come from having imposter guides, which we do often talk about. Imposters are fake soul guides, the ones that entities are pretending to be. So sometimes that happens, but also a belief can happen. You can put a block on yourself just by believing that you're blocked. I'm dealing with this right now myself because I've been kind of frustrated about my mediumship. Because I mean, I know bits and pieces are getting in accurately, but it's not as strong as I would like it to be. So I've been trying to kind of develop my mediumship. And my guides say that I am my own biggest block, which makes a lot of sense. Because I have been trying to do things right and I still end up feeling like it's not progressing like it should. And it gets very frustrating. And so I have had a lot of blocks that I put there myself. So one of the things that you can do, Matt, is to call in your higher self sometime during a moment of quiet contemplation. You call in your higher self and you talk to your higher self directly. You can do it through telepathy, through, sending thoughts, but you can even just speak out loud and ask your higher self to explain to you or to show you where the blockages are, where things are kind of where you're getting in your own way. You can also ask your soul guides. You can call in your guides and ask them what's going on. If you feel that you have nothing, like if you don't feel anything from your guides, sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes it might feel like a heart flutter. Some might be goosebumps. For some, it might be just a feeling of presence around them. Sometimes you might get intuitive thoughts coming in. That can be your guides as well. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can end up blocked, but there's a lot of ways that you can kind of end up. It's almost like holding yourself back through disbelief. So make sure that you're not disbelieving in yourself either. Because disbelief is one of the biggest killers for manifestation and for our gifts. I mean, it literally is. It is. You could have all these wonderful gifts, but if you don't believe in them and if you gaslight yourself, you ruin your gifts. So we'll be able to tell you more when we go through your report. The guides can see what's going on. They can see where the root of our blockages are, what our biggest vulnerabilities are, and things like that. Susie says, hello, a South African in the building. We have a lot of South Africans here. You are in good company. We always have South Africans hanging out with us on the podcast. Can imposters come through black magic? Yes, absolutely. Yes, if somebody is doing black magic on you, they can send you entities. They can send themselves entities too. So chances are you're both getting an entity if somebody is trying to do black magic on you. But it depends on what kind of black magic. As I've explained before, there's different varying degrees of intensity when it comes to magic. Just speaking negatively about people is sending curses. A lot of people don't understand that. Words are spells. So if you're speaking negatively about other people, and saying bad things like, I hope they blah, 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 that is putting out spells and curses. So it could be that as like the lower level of stuff that we tend to find on people. So just because if you see spells and curses in your report, chances are it could be just from somebody talking smack. It doesn't mean that somebody is actually like throwing Eye of Newt in a cauldron and trying to get you through the black magic. It doesn't always work that way. Some people are literally just, sending ill intention that way. And it does come out as a spell or a curse, depending on how intense their intentions are. If they're really spewing vitriol, it'll come through stronger. But if you have somebody, let's say, I jokingly call them Etsy witches too, but they're basically like the low level witches, the ones that go into a metaphysical store and buy a book, and then they're like, oh, okay, I got this book, it's telling me what to do. And then they start doing these little rituals and things like that. That would be like mid-tier, I guess. It's basically setting an intention, but you're making it a little bit stronger through the ritual, right? So it's basically the same as level 1, just a little bit more intense because you're setting more of an intention and you're expressing more and you're setting more to the universe, But then you get the real magic users. They're very rare. You get people who do know what they're doing, that have like these grimoires that are passed down from generation to generation. You have these old school witches and other people who really do know how to do dark magic. People in South Africa know them as sangomas and other witch doctors, whatever you want to call them. I feel that's a derogatory term because they're not all evil. Many of them do a lot of good in the world too. Many of them are healers as well. They just use herbal medicine. You just don't want to piss them off. You don't want to get on their bad side. And if you end up on the bad side of one of these people who really do know what they're doing, chances are your life will go down the tube real quick. Your finances will disappear. Your health will, yeah. You don't want to get on the bad side of this. There was one client, for example, this was quite a while back, that went to, I think it was Haiti, as a missionary. And when they went to Haiti as a missionary, they were trying to spread the word of Jesus Christ. And they ended up getting on the bad side of a few of the local, you know, I don't want to know what, I forget what word they're called, but yeah, basically, she had 17 spells and curses on her, and she ended up in hospital. So it's no joke. These are not the kind of people you want to get on their bad side of. So yes, black magic is a real thing. And we see people end up in hospital for it on occasion because it's so intense. You could lose your entire life savings. You could lose everything to the wrong person setting up black magic against you. So just be mindful about being extremely respectful to people. Yeah, 17. That, like I said, she ended up in hospital. That's how bad it was. So, like, it was booked by a friend of hers that was like, I don't know what she got into in Haiti, but like, this is some crazy stuff. And sure enough, I wonder how she's doing. Because after we remove all this stuff and put extra protection up, hopefully your health is supposed to start slowly getting better again. But we have found several people that ended up in hospital due to black magic. So it is no joke. This is not the kind of black magic we're talking about where you just end up unlucky all the time. No, this is a lot worse. So there are forms of this that they're more rare now. Part of the reason for that is because of the, you know, slaughter of witches worldwide. Many of them did actually end up, you know, they were healers and they were good people, but some of them did end up doing some dark magic, and there was quite a lot that was lost during that period for obvious reasons. I mean, they were burning everything they could get their hands on, including women. But this is more common in third world countries, or I should say old world countries, especially. We find it a lot in Asia and the Middle East and in India and things like that. So yeah, we do find quite a bit. The older the country, the older the cultural stuff. And some of the cultural stuff is a bit, you know, bit heavy. So always show respect, especially when you're traveling and you're going to places like this and you end up running into people like this, especially if you're a missionary. It's always a good idea to be respectful and to honor other people's beliefs and cultures, because if you don't, you could end up finding out how real those cultures, how legit they actually were. So, yes, don't act a fool, as Izzy said. Exactly. Don't act a fool in other people's countries, period. Especially if they know magic. But you know what's interesting? Do you know where I find the most black magic? And I'm not talking like 17 curses and spells. I'm talking hundreds of curses and spells. You know where we find that? It's the most interesting thing about it, actually, in my opinion anyway. I wonder if you guys can tell. Guess what profession where you would find the most. Somebody said doctors. Nope. Maria said Texas. Nope. Guess what profession you find the most curses and spells on? Charisse knew. Bam! Charisse nailed it. Financial places. Banking institutions. Somebody said lawyers and judges. Actually, that's where we find the most dark contracts. We find the most dark contracts on lawyers and judges. Yes. I mean, what you reap, you sow, right? So this is why I say, judges and lawyers and things like that, they have the most contracts. They have the most dark contracts. In fact, I cleared a judge once and we found over 200 dark contracts on one judge. But it's the bankers. Yes, by far. Like, we're talking quadruple the number of normal amount that you would find. Maybe even more so. Bankers know magic like you would not believe. And we're not talking about like Etsy style magic. We're talking old world magic. And they're the ones that are using it against each other the most. So this is how I found out, is from clearing bankers and from clearing banks. I cleared a central bank once, and you want to know what I found in that place. It was the Central Bank of Suriname that I cleared. Because somebody booked a clearing for it. Somebody was like, oh yeah, I got a property clearing. And I was like, what? And this was a little bit cheeky because they were like, yeah, there's this property next door and we really got to get it cleared and it gives us weird juju. And then out of curiosity, one of my favorite things to do when there's a public location, they were like, okay, here's the address of the public location we need cleared. And we're like, okay, so we go and like have a look. And it turned out it was a central bank. And I was like, are we still okay to do this? Is this cleared? And the guides were like, yeah, we can do that. I was like, are you sure? And they said, it's been shut down for years. It's not that much going on there. And I was like, okay, cool. And we go in and there's just thousands of dark contracts and curses. Thousands of dark contracts and curses and spells and all kinds of chaos. I mean, it was just, no wonder that building was so dark. So yeah, that's why they do it to each other though. And that's where a lot of people who end up with the worst kind of stuff, the worst kind of attachments comes through the work, comes through banking. Bankers, no, I mean, it reminds me of that saying, what was that one quote? Millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do. Who else has heard that quote? Millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do. And the reason for that is because they know how it works. They may give us the watered down version of it, but they understand how it works and they can run with it. Same thing goes for old world magic. They know how it works. This is how they've kept themselves in power for so long. So yes, they absolutely understand old world magic. They understand the power of entities too, of getting entities to do their bidding for them. So the financial sector is completely controlled by entities. So are all public places fair game? As in for permission to perform clearings? I mean, I've only been told no twice. Okay, 3 times. Okay, 3 times. I forgot about that third one. We literally were told no yesterday. Or is it Saturday? Anyway, we sat down in our Saturday meetup, our hangout, and there was a location that I wanted to clear. I don't even know if I should say the location on the podcast. It's a very well-known place for children to go where they are healing from cancer. Probably one of the biggest well-known places in the United States. And I have had a thing about grays recently. I'm trying to capture as many grays as I can through these clearings. The grays have been causing a lot of problems with children. So we were wanting to go and clear as many of them as we possibly could. And the guides told me no, and I asked why, and they said this location is a food factory. And I said, what do you mean it's a food factory? And they said, it's literally a loosh factory. I mean, the children go there to be healed, and they end up fed upon energetically. So I was very upset to be told that we weren't able to clear it. In fact, they said, well, we could try and clear some of it, but the retaliation from it, from taking that big of a food supply from them, wouldn't be worth it. So a lot of times, as we mentioned to you guys, it's not that we can't clear it. It's that we don't want to deal with the consequences of pissing off the entities that we would piss off if we did clear it. So a lot of times, we say, well, hey, can we do this? And the guides were like, well, you could, but it wouldn't be worth it considering the repercussions, the backlash that would happen from it. And to be honest, it kind of ruined my weekend a little bit. I've been feeling down ever since, just a little bit because of it. Because this is a place that I've been wanting to clear for a while. And after being told that we can't because there are so many entities in there, I get it. I understand. And I appreciate so much that they're trying to keep us safe and protected. Because with this work, I mean, we could go off very much so, to the point where we could just be doing this, that. I mean, we could be bouncing all over the planet doing stuff. But as we have learned in previous situations, a lot of times we end up on the wrong radars. And when that happens, we end up getting the backlash from it. And, and there was a conversation, I don't know if you guys remember this conversation. Some of you were watching this podcast 2 years ago when I was first speaking with one of my favorite mentors. I asked him, what's to stop us from getting an army of, like, let's say, and I did say the word army too, I probably shouldn't have used that word, but of 100 mediums together, 100 spirit release mediums, and we just invade London. Like, what if we go trudging into London, 100 mediums strong, and we're just clearing everything we can come in contact with? We're clearing out the whole astral of London. And I asked him, I was like, so what can we do? Like, could we do that? Like, could we just go through London, through the financial sector of London, which is many of us consider to be beastie central, for the whole planet? Could we just go stomping through and just clear them all? And he said, well, yeah, you could. You could go through. You could go through and clear hundreds, thousands even of dark entities throughout London. But you won't get them all. And you leave your energy signature there, they're going to know who did the clearing. And you don't go home as 100 mediums, do you? You don't go back to your house, go back to bed, and go back to your normal life with 100 mediums with you, do you? No, you go home as one medium. So this is the problem, It's like, yeah, we could do more, but it would put us in a tension that we don't want to be under. So this is why we try our best to keep our head in the trench and to not tackle things that would end up coming back to bite us. So, right now it's a delicate thing. It's a delicate place, we're in right now, because there's a very fine line and you can't even see the line. You don't know when you're crossing it. And part of me has just got this, I don't know, it's my inner Zoran, I might as well jokingly call it, but this part of me that's just like, I'm going to get them all. Like, I just want to go through everywhere and do as much as I possibly can, and nobody's going to stop me. That's the kind of attitude I have on one side. And the other side of me is going, we should probably have some caution. I wonder which part, like, there's probably healthy caution in this aspect, considering how much of this world, how dark some of this world can be. And it's hard to respect a line that you can't even see. It may as well be a line in the sand that gets moved all the time. So, this is one of those trial and error things where we just kind of do what we can with what we've got, and we keep working forward every step of the way. We're kind of tiptoeing past the line, trying more and more to make more of a difference. And sometimes I wish that we could do more than just what we are currently doing. If you notice, I'm choosing my words wisely right now, trying to anyway. But anyway, my point in all of this is that, we are doing what we can. And even though it feels like sometimes it's not enough, I know it's all adding up. It's those ripple effects that Yeshua was talking about, that one time that Carolyn and I were chatting with him, and we were saying that we feel like we don't do enough. And he basically like I wish we could do more, part of the reason why I wanted to go after those grays, because I feel like, with every single gray we capture, I feel like we're saving a child. It's how it feels to me. because that's what they do. They go from person to person. The Greys don't just usually hang out in your house 24/7. They go in, they set their intentions, they set their traps, they set their low vibrational implants and all their crap, and then they go off and harass somebody else. Somebody asked, why is London beastie central? It's not just the only place that's beastie central. That's the financial sector. So it's one of their cesspits. We'll put it that way. DC is another one. Vatican City is another one. LA is another one. I mean, even Chicago is one. It all depends on how much food they're getting from that area, how much control they have over their area. And you know how you can kind of tell whether there's a big obelisk in the area. If there's a giant obelisk in that city, chances are they claimed it. That's them saying this is an occupied city. So Carolyn said, if we don't stay safe, then we can't do anything at all. Exactly, Carolyn. Well said. So we're all kind of doing what we can and trying to keep our head in the trench. Most of us, I mean, if not all of us, wish we could do more. But at the same time, I feel that we're playing the long game. We have to play it smart. We have to be patient and not go off half-cocked. And, I feel that most of us are starting to get more empowered and more able to hold our ground. But we still have, somebody said, so DC and New York. Yes, absolutely New York City. Yep. Like I said, the obelisks are the sign. So if you want to know if the city is pretty much occupied, it's the financial sectors that are the biggest thing to look out for. If your city is a major financial sector, if there's a lot of corporate stuff going on in that area, then chances are, yes, there's a lot going on. In the Astral as well, is my point. Somebody said, how do you protect children from Greys? Awareness. The Greys are the biggest, most complicated thing. And to be honest, they're the one thing you don't want to see in your report. Reptilians, it's more of a vibration thing. You can smudge them away. They don't like the smell of sage. They will bugger off somewhere else. If they don't enjoy the location, right? If they're not feeling like it's a good location, if your house is high vibrational, filled with love and joy, there's not going to be any lizards in there. They don't like that. But the Greys don't care. The Greys aren't bothered by sage. They have no sense of smell. So, the Greys are complicated. The one thing that you can do is ask for stronger guides. If you have Greys coming in, stronger guides will always help. You can call in your favorite deity to ask them for more protection. So there is quite a lot we can do, but for the most part, it's different depending on the situation. Some people are messed with the Greys one time. Some people, they'll be, let's say you're going in for a tonsillectomy. You're getting your tonsils out, right? You're getting put under anesthesia. 9 times out of 10, whenever we go and check somebody's been under anesthesia, there's been entities connected to them. Because as you're going out of body, they try and they put attachments on you. So anytime you go to the hospital for anesthesia, I would book a clearing after you get home. Not even kidding. Aiden and I needed to go in for surgery. Aiden had a surgery he had to do. He underwent anesthesia. I called in the guides. I asked for protection first, and then I immediately did a clearing after he got out. The reason for that is because anytime you go under, like I said, they're messing with you. There's always somebody in that room around, whether it's a Grey or reptilian, sometimes both. The reason, like I said, is because they're trying to mess with you while you're out of body. So anytime you go out of body, they're around. So if you're just going into the hospital for an appointment, make sure that you give a nice, strong smudge afterward. You smudge your whole body. I would even smudge your car. Otherwise, you're going to bring home earthbounds. So if you're somebody, like I said, it's just finishing my train of thought. If you're going to the hospital for a one-time thing, and you get a clearing and there were a Grey on you, chances are they're not really probably going to come back again. It's the people that are long-term, where we clear them and there's back again, and we clear them and then they go back again, and we have to keep constantly clearing them. And the reason that happens is because a lot of people are involved in the hybrid program. There's a lot of people who are unaware of this. Even they don't even know they're being messed with, because they can do this in your dream state. They don't have to physically abduct you. A lot of people, that is a misconception about the Greys, that they have to physically remove you from your house while they're messing with you. No, they don't. They will come in and do whatever they feel like doing, and then they leave again. They don't have to take you from your house. Sometimes they do, but those are very rare occasions. For the most part, though, they can come in and mess with your astral body and do all kinds of stuff. So out of all the things that are the most concerning, it would be the Greys in the reports. Although yesterday I was chatting with Zach, we found 4 shadow people in somebody's house. This person knew they were there too, because they saw them. Or I don't know if they saw them or if their child saw them. But they mentioned it, and sure enough, I said, is there shadow people? He goes, yeah, there's some shadow people. And I said, well, how do you keep them out? I was like, because we don't often talk about shadow people. And he goes, yeah, well, that's because we don't send them to source. We just kind of shoo them away. We make them go away. Because they're not bad. They're just opportunistic. And they're just low vibrational. And they like to occupy spaces. So shadow people are very similar in that regard, to where they're like earthbounds in a way. Somebody said, what are shadow people? They are an invasive species of galactic. They look like humans, like a human silhouette. A lot of times you notice them differently versus entities, because the non-physical entities, because they look like they're wearing hats. You've ever seen people talk about the Hat Man? Sometimes even have a cape or a trench coat. Apparently they're very fashionable. The reason they look like a shadow is because they're not 100% solid. You can see them under low light conditions. You can see them with cameras sometimes. They're basically like 75% in the astral, like 25% in the physical. So they're still around. They're just kind of, like I said, if stuff disappears and doesn't come back again, you ever notice stuff disappears and then it reappears later? That's usually like an elemental. Elementals will take your stuff and borrow it for a bit and then give it back again. If something disappears completely and it's like it just got nicked from your house, chances are that could have been a shadow people. They do help themselves to people's things. They do. They literally will come in. They'll move into your house. They'll mess around with your things. They'll do whatever they want. Most of the time, though, they are just passing through. They can walk through walls because they have technology that puts them out of phase with our physical reality, which is why you can't just walk up and punch one if you see one in the house. They do not like dogs. They do love to mess with your pets for this reason. Yes, Kristen, definitely. They do mess with your pets quite a lot. Shadow people aren't evil. They're just a nuisance. They're just around. They're from Mensa, from a different planet originally. They exist on most planets where there are not any, where it's a less evolved race. If it's a less evolved beings, they tend to kind of live among them. They're always kind of wandering around aimlessly. They don't really have a purpose other than curiosity. They just kind of walk around and be nosy. Sometimes they're just walking through. Sometimes they're helping themselves to your stuff. Sometimes they're bored and they're just messing with your kids. Sometimes they're nice. Sometimes they're really mean. Sometimes they will throw rocks at cars and stuff. And you're like, who did that? And there's nobody around. Yep. No, they don't like sage. They do not like sage at all. So yes, sage gets rid of them. They don't like a happy house, period. They're kind of a Scrooge in a way. A lot of them are not very nice or high vibrational. They don't like happy, high vibrational places. So if your house is filled with a lot of love and laughter and, high vibrational music and you're smudging it regularly and you've got animals running around, they're not going to mess with that house. They're going to go and bother the neighbors. So, just going back up through some of the questions. There was a good question. Somebody was asking, Elle said, I'm always really clumsy in the kitchen and dropping things. What could that be? That is ungrounded. Yes, exactly. Yep, Jessica answered your question for you. But yeah, that's what being ungrounded is like. So you can just laugh at them. Yes, Jenna. Absolutely, you can. I mean, you could ask them nicely to leave. Sometimes it doesn't work. So if they keep you gotta kind of, show them you mean business. What if you live alone? You can still be a high vibe house. Play lots of Krishna flute music when you're not in the house. They hate it. I'm telling you, Krishna flute music works for a lot of stuff. It really does. Krishna is amazing. His music, his flute music is so high vibrational, so full of love that it just raises the vibration of every space you play it in. So whenever I'm not home for like the whole day, like I was walking around the lake yesterday, I was blaring Krishna flute music in my house all day. They're probably going to think I was having some kind of a Hindu festival in my house at some point because of how loud I play it. But it's true, though. It does work. So, are elementals another name for the Greys? No. Elementals are, they're nature spirits. Some of them are nice. Some of them are naughty. Some of them are mischievous. Some are very pleasant and loving. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous. It depends on what, where you are, what you're doing. And we do tend to find elementals are very different depending on where you are. This world is filled with elementals. There used to be a lot more of them before the flood. Many of them were killed during the flood as well. Many were wiped out during the flood, or they went underground, or they went into alternate frequencies. But there are elementals that exist in every corner of this planet. I mean, even from the hottest climates to the coldest climates, from deserts. I mean, people think, well, there's no life in a desert. Yeah, there is. There's elementals running all over the place, just as much as there are, little critters that you don't really pay attention to much, like the little bugs and the little lizards and things running around. There's elementals everywhere. In fact, there's even elementals in 3D that people don't know about. You don't think of it as an elemental because you don't look at it the same way you would as if it was an astral creature. Jellyfish, seahorses, trying to think, what else? Fireflies? What else would be an elemental? I said jellyfish already. Seahorses. What was the other one that we were told about as an elemental? Hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are an elemental. So you would have to kind of redefine what is an elemental. Jessica says octopus. No, that's a galactic. Octopuses are galactic. But then again, you can have galactic elementals. So maybe an octopus is more of a galactic elemental. But I don't think so. I think it's different. So I think we kind of need to redefine. Dragonflies, I would imagine, are definitely elementals. So, I mean, we would kind of have to redefine what an elemental is. Like I said, some of them are 3D and we think of them as animals, but they're not. I mean, technically. Or maybe I could say elementals are a type of animal. In fact, the Soul Guides laughed at me one time because I said, can an elemental be an imposter? And they all laughed at me. I was like, I take that as a no. They're like, no, elementals cannot be imposters. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. All the guides thought it was the funniest notion. They're all laughing their butts off of that one. Apparently the concept of those is no, there's not going to be an elemental, what you call it. So, yes, it was Rachel Chamness that originally, we've had Rachel Chamness on this podcast many times talking about this. I think she was the one that originally told us that jellyfish and seahorses were elementals. What about Sasquatch? If they are indigenous to Gaia, I imagine they would be, yeah. I just think of an elemental as a being that lives perfectly in the elements. They have mastered their own element, whether it's air, wind, fire, ether, whatever. How do we know that worms aren't elementals, technically? Just because they're earth elementals. How do we know? It's fire salamander, right? People think of fire salamanders as elementals, as a fire elemental. So I think we kind of have to figure out what the definition of elemental even is. According to the guides, I imagine it's different to what we humans would consider it. But there are different types that exist throughout all of these different frequencies and dimensions. And depending on where you go in the world, you find all kinds of different new types of elementals and demonics and galactics. This is why we jokingly call Texas the American Australia, because Texas has the weirdest shit. Texas has by far the weirdest critters running around. I should just say the American Midwest, really. It just has the weirdest stuff. Not just Texas, but Arizona, New Mexico, Mexico too. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that survived the floods that is still down there being interesting. And then you find stuff in the jungles that exist all over. And even in American rainforests, people don't really understand that Washington has American rainforests. They are filled with elementals. They're just everywhere. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not around you. They are all over the place. You can't see a Wi-Fi signal doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So just because people can't see them, they think they don't exist. Or because you can see some of them in 3D, they think, well, that's just an animal. No, it's complicated. We also find a lot of interesting stuff in Asia. Pretty much all over India, China, all over. Middle East, we find some really, really interesting elementals and demonics there. People talk about jinn a lot. That is, is a form of demonic. So there are old world creatures and beings that exist all over. Some of them are nice. Some of them are chaotic neutral. Some of them have a chip on their shoulder in regards to humans. Some are indifferent and try to stay away from humans. Some specifically target humans. In fact, I was checking on a guy. There was a person that booked a clearing with me like a while back. And then a couple days later, he was like, I felt great. Felt amazing. And then all of a sudden, I felt like this horrible shoulder pain. And I don't know where it came from. Can you do a recheck on me? And we tuned in. And I asked what happened. And they said, it's just a level 1. And I said, a level 1 was causing all that? And he goes, if you could see the claws on that level 1 and how it was digging into that guy's back, you would understand why the level 1 was causing so much pain. And I asked, where did it come from? I'm just curious. Like, how did it get there? And they said he went for a walk yesterday through a park. It was waiting in the trees above him. And as he was walking under the tree, it dropped down on him with its claws, like. And I asked what it looked like, and they said it looked like a gremlin. You guys ever watch the movie Gremlins? And I asked what it was, and they said that's the most common type of level 1 that they find, is they literally look like gremlins. Where do you think they got the idea for that movie? Somebody could see these beings. Catherine says a drop bear. It was funny because they were in the UK as well, so that makes it funnier though. But yeah, drop bears. It literally jumped out of the tree and landed on him and was like. Somebody said, can you beat them? There's this one time I was chatting with one of my favorite guides I used to work with all the time through the academy. And there was this one level 1 in the house. And he says, I'm going to backhand it. And he like flicked it out of the house. Because sometimes they don't even bother. Like, they don't send the level 1s to source all the time. Sometimes they just chase them away. They're like, go on, get. They chase out the elementals. You're not supposed to be in here. Go on, get. So they just chased them out. Well, this was one of those times where there was this really obnoxious level 1, one of those gargoyle gremlin types. And I said, well, what are you going to send it to source? He goes, nah, I just backhanded it and got it off. And I was like, all right, So at the end of the clearing, as I almost always do, I say, can we just do a sweep around the perimeter, make sure we got everybody, make sure we got all the entities. And he goes, yeah, we got everyone. Oh, wait, hold on. There's a level 1 on the roof. I was like, why is there a level 1 on the roof? And he goes, I think it's the same one I backhanded. I don't think I backhanded it hard enough. And I was like, seriously? Hearing that from a soul guide, I was laughing myself out of my chair. He's like, I don't think I backhanded that one hard enough. I think I need to send it further away. I We found a chupacabra on somebody's property. I forget where it was, New Mexico or something. We found a chupacabra, and we're like, what are you going to do with the chupacabra? He goes, we're going to send it back to the jungle. It's not supposed to be here. I said, so you're going to relocate it? He goes, yeah, we send him to the jungle. I was like, okay. So I asked, I said, what is a chupacabra? And he's like, it's just a level 1. I said, it's an elemental? And he's like, yeah. I said, that's a not nice looking elemental. Like, that is not, we don't think of them as elementals because we think of it as like a freaky looking thing. We're like, you know, we don't realize, yeah, the elementals aren't always pretty. Ask the South Africans about tokolosh. Any South Africans know what a tokolosh is? I'm sure you all do. That's the funny thing, right? You hear about these beings and you were like, well, you know. There's all kinds of beings that exist. In fact, it was really funny. There was this really tall guy, right? Like, I think he was like nearly 7 foot tall, like 6'6", 6'8", something like that. Massive guy, right? And we did a clearing on him. And because he was a friend of a friend, and I was just trying to help him out. And I said, you know, like, what's on him? And they said he has 8 level 1s. And I was like, normally there's like 3 or 4, like maximum on a client. So I was like, I paused for a moment and I was like, did you just say 8? He has 8 level 1s on him? And they're like, yeah, he does. And I said, how? Like, how are there 8 level 1s? And they said, oh, they're all over him. It looks like, you know how goats climb a tree and try to eat the higher branches? That's what they look like. Like, they're climbing him. And they're just holding on. Some have got him by the legs. Some are holding on to their shoulders. In fact, there was one even sitting on his head. I was like, seriously? They're like, yeah, like a hat sitting on his head. I was like, are you serious? This is how the level 1s are? Yeah, they hold on for dear life, you know? In fact, we even found one that was like, because they'll set cords to you, right? And they have these cords that they attach. And they can hold on to the cords. So a lot of times that's how they stay attached to you, is holding on to those cords. So we found one guy, another big guy, had one sitting on his shoulders, right? And he had 2 cords. And he was doing this, like he was trying to ride him like a jockey. Like this. Can you imagine a little gremlin, like a little monkey? Yeah, exactly. On your back, going like, come on, giddy up, giddy up. Like, that's what they do. And it'll be hurting. It'll be feeling pain in your shoulders. And you're like, why? And you don't understand. Like, you get a little gremlin on your back, you know, doing this. This is the chaos that is the astral. You guys have no idea until you go visit the astral yourself and start seeing. Once you start developing your mediumship and you start tuning into clients and you start seeing these things and you're like, am I making this shit up? This is crazy. You know, the guides are like, no, that's actually happening. So, you know, out of all the things we remove, we don't talk about the elementals much because a lot of times we're just kind of, you know, overshadowed by the demonics and the reptilians and all the other weird shit that we find on people, the galactics. We have even found galactic octopuses, like what do you call them? 4D octopus creatures on people. And you do not want to have one of those on you, just for the record. Luckily, those are rare. They kind of get a hold of you like the face suckers do, like what you would imagine a live octopus would do if you pissed it off. Like a live octopus would be like, you know, to your face. Yeah, they do that. And a lot of the clients that have an octopus attached, they're like coughing up all this mucus and slime, and they're just feeling all gross, and they don't know why. They can barely breathe. They have no idea what's going on. And sure enough, Jessica said, did the galactic octopi also camouflage? Of course they do. Absolutely. They got better camouflage than the 3D octopuses do. Yep. The large centipede ones are not elemental types. Those are astral parasites. Astral parasites are the critters, the creepy crawlies. The people go and sometimes take psychedelics, or they astral project and they see astral spiders and other creepy crawlies. That's an astral parasite. There are more bugs in the astral than there are in the physical. They're nasty. They really are. And they can even go internally and no. We find like tapeworms in people's brains sometimes. It's not nice. This is what we find with psychic surgery sometimes. Sometimes I won't tell you. I must admit, I'm just curious. Like, would you guys actually like to know that information? Is that something you guys would want to know in your reports? Or do you think that you'd be focused on it? Because we don't want you to focus on the things we've removed. The best thing you can do to when you look at your report and be like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then just be like, all right, it's gone now. Doesn't matter anymore, right? But then we have people who fixate on these things. And they're like, what do you mean there was an octopus on me? Ah, and they focus on the octopus and they think about it. Like, would you actually want to know if there was like a tapeworm in your brain that we had to remove? I'm just curious. See, we're getting about 50-50. Some of you, okay, I'm just curious whether or not you'd want to know. I don't put it in there if the guides tell me not to. So if the guides say, no, don't put that in there, I'm not going to put it in there. I listen to the guides' advice. And most of the time they tell me they don't want to know this. And so I'm like, all right. So I don't go too much into detail. If you had a massive centipede or some freaky shit in your brain because we had to pull it out, the grays tend to do that. It's an astral parasite. I'm not talking about the physical versions, even though the astral versions almost always go with the physical version. So if you're doing like a parasite cleanse, which is a really good idea, everybody should be doing a parasite cleanse at least once or twice a year. Parasite cleanses are one of the most important things that you could do for your body. I'm not even kidding. So this is the problem, though, is that astral parasites tend to go with physical parasites. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate the compliment. So, yes, the most important thing is that when you have these things removed, that you're not fixating on them, that you're not, like, freaking out about it. Someone said, can you recommend a parasite cleanse? I do have one that I recommend. His name is Hans the Herbalist. In fact, I'm even trying to see if I can get Hans to come on the podcast. He's an amazing herbalist in Australia who has an Etsy shop that is currently closed. So I will promote that in a couple weeks when his shop reopens after Easter. You Australians do not do anything for Easter. Like, I swear to God, I was in Australia and the entire country shut down for like 2-3 weeks. I don't know what it is. So just don't expect anything from anybody in Australia during the end of March or the beginning of April. For the 3 weeks around Easter, like, yeah. So Hans is shut down for now. Otherwise, I'll promote his stuff in a few weeks. I would only do his. I'm sure there's other people that make amazing kinds, but his works phenomenally well, which is why I promote it. But you can also, yes, Dan, there's other suggestions like clove water. Yes, clove helps. There's a whole lot of different stuff, though. So, yeah, I'm planning on seeing if I can get Hans to come on the podcast, and then I'll promote all his amazing stuff, all his tinctures and things. Hans is amazing. I've been doing his parasite cleanse for 3 years, and it's just chef's kiss. It tastes horrible, but it works. It works phenomenally well. Where can I find genuine crystal bracelets? A friend of mine named Megan owns one called a business called Mama Moon Rocks. If you would like crystals that you would order online, I would check out Mama Moon Rocks. Otherwise, I would just go to a crystal show. See if there's a crystal show in your area, that one that you can drive to. Then you can feel the crystal. You can touch the crystals that way. And it's better if you can pick through feeling rather than just ordering online. So yes, Gail just said black walnut, wormwood, and what was the other one? Cat's claw bark and a few others, clove, soursop. Yes, all of those work. Hans's thing, the reason I went with Hans's tincture is because I read online like a long list of things that are really good for killing parasites, and his tincture has everything. It has all of it. Like, literally just going through the whole list had all the things. That's why I picked his. But like I said, he shut down for a few weeks, so I will. I'll promote that when he's back up again. Yes, Mama Moon Rocks. Megan is her name. She's a friend. I did a crystal class with her a couple years ago, and so yes, Katie. Yes, exactly. Wormwood tastes terrible. It really does. So yeah, we'll have like I say, I'm going to try and get a hold of Hans and we can have a talk about herbalism sometime. We did post a new class on the website today. There is the Children's Psychic Protection course coming up. That is going to be the 18th of April. So if you guys are interested in the Children's Psychic Protection course, we're calling it the Psychic Empowerment course. Because the word protection has some, just some negative connotations attached to it. So we want to promote it more as empowerment than protection. Because empowerment is protection. It's just a more positive way of spinning it. So if you look on my astrallara.com website, you will see under classes and courses, we have the Children's Psychic Protection / Children's Psychic Empowerment course that is now up live. So you guys can do that. It'll be April 18th. Your children are welcome to be included. Your children we actually encourage you to bring your children to watch it with them. The first hour of the class is going to be for the little ones. You can have the big kids watch that as well, just to get a basic understanding of the little stuff too. But we keeping it as high vibrational and fun. We aren't going to be talking about entities. This is all about psychic empowerment. So we're not going to be talking about anything scary. It's just going to be helping children to kind of protect their energy, to sense when things are off, to know what to do before they go to bed at night, so that way they're not getting messed with in their dream state and things like that. And it just helps to coach the children to be a bit more empowered, and so they're not being gaslighted and a whole bunch of other stuff too, to really believe in themselves more. Do I need to pay for both children separately? No. So the first hour of the class is going to be for children like ages 3 to 10 approximately. So even your littlest ones, they can learn a little bit about it. So that's why we started around age 3. You can kind of tell them a little bit about some stuff. And then the second hour of the class is going to be children like ages 8 to 15. And then children 16 and over can do the Adult Psychic Protection course, which we will be doing as well. So the first one is going to be the children's course. That'll be April 18th. And then I'm going to be doing the Adult Psychic Protection course, I believe 2 weeks after that. And then I'll be doing SRT 1. So SRT 1 will be at the end of May. SRT 2 will be at the end of the summer after I get back from traveling abroad. So we're going to be focused more on SRT 2 at the end of the summer. We are going to be doing SRT 2. We weren't sure if we were even going to do it this year. We are. We just want to make sure that we have a lot going on this summer, especially in regards to doing retreats. And we were even thinking about doing an in-person class. So we're kind of tossing around some ideas right now. So expect SRT 2 to be at the end of the summer. Reiki class went amazing. Thank you for asking, Sarah. We had 80 people who signed up for our Reiki 1 class. If you guys are interested in getting a certificate for that, like I said, we do offer certificates, but you got to message us and request one. So just email us. Charisse will send that over to you. Thank you to Charisse for doing that. We have a beautiful certificate. So if you would like a Reiki 1 certificate from the class that Kara and I taught over the weekend, just hit us up if you sat through the class. We are going to be doing Reiki 2. That'll happen probably right around the same time we do the Adult Psychic Protection course. So around the mid-May, we'll do Reiki 2. So I'm going to switch over to Astara in a moment. If you guys are interested in joining us on Astara for our Zoom chat, which is always fun. Is there a virtual option? Yes. Yes, the class is available by replay. You can still get the attunement from sitting in and watching the recording. Our guides are aware of it. If you missed Reiki 1, we'll be doing it again. We're going to be doing these Reiki courses twice a year, and we are going to be offering Reiki 3 at some point. We're just in the process of getting it accredited to the right Reiki organizations. So it's going to take extra. For Reiki 3, if you guys are interested in doing Reiki 3, we will be offering that at some point, but we want to make sure that it's actually legit. Like you guys are going to be getting a certificate and accreditation through the legit channels that way. So there will be another Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and there will be a Reiki 3. There will be the Children's Empowerment course. We have the Adult Psychic Protection course, and we have a witch wound class that we'll be teaching as well. Carolyn and I have been talking about that for quite some time. So we will be teaching a class about how to heal the witch wound, which is it's basically an empowerment course. Because as many of you are aware, those of you who are suffering from witch wounds, myself included, we have a bit of an issue with giving our power away, with being people pleasers, right? Why does that happen? Well, we don't want to piss anybody off. Why? Because we got killed for doing so. A lot of people end up wanting to kind of shrink themselves down and like hide themselves away because they're afraid of being punished. They're afraid of being persecuted. They're afraid of being shunned or ridiculed or mistreated or abused. And a lot of that, we hold ourselves back through that belief. We get scared of speaking out. That imposter syndrome. It took me 5 years to feel comfortable with creating this Facebook page. 5 years. Because I was trying to get to a point where I felt like I was important enough to say something. Like why? For a while, I remember saying that too when I was, on the Dolores Cannon page, and somebody said, well, you should create your own page. You should create the Laura Starr page. And my first reaction to that was, why? Why would anybody care what I have to say? I didn't write books. I didn't have, I study things. Yeah, but why would anybody care what I have to say? That's the imposter syndrome. That's the witch wound talking. Right? So if you ever questioned yourself, why should I do that? Nobody's going to take me seriously. Or should I really do that? Maybe people will laugh at me or make me make me feel like I'm, not good enough for all of this. 5 years. Imagine how big my page would be if I hadn't gaslighted myself for 5 years. So just take that into consideration that many of us are holding ourselves back for fear of being seen in a negative light in whatever aspect that means. Some people are afraid of being laughed at and ridiculed. Some people are afraid of being persecuted, like actively persecuted. So this is what that class is all about standing in your power, about forgiving all the horrible, horrible things that many of us went through. I had a client a couple weeks ago who came for a clearing who was in a very, very disempowered mindset to the point where they didn't even know who they were. It seemed like they were just trying to figure that out, which is part of the reason why they came for the clearing in the first place. And you know what they did? You know that scene of Game of Thrones with Cersei? You know the scene I'm talking about. Cersei was a bad person, right? Cersei did horrible things in the series of Game of Thrones. But in that scene later on where they stripped her naked and they walked her through town and they beat her and they threw horrible rotting food at her and they laughed at her and they called her names and they did horrible things. Do you have any idea how many of us went through that? That walk of shame, exactly. That is not a rare thing. If you were triggered by that scene, if you felt gut-wrenching, like almost like I felt like I got punched in the gut watching that scene, and I had no idea why. I wasn't even a witch in that life. I was a Cathar. So the witch wound class isn't just for people who were burned at the stake. They're not just for people who have been persecuted as a healer. It's for the people who have been shrinking themselves down for too long because the last time they didn't. So many people went through walks of shame. So many people. Leanne died in prison. I also died in prison. I was starved to death. Leanne was beaten to death in prison. Many of us, we didn't even, if you think about it, those who died in prison, we didn't end up on a list of people who were persecuted as witches. We didn't end up in the papers. We didn't end up getting, some of us were paraded to the stocks and all this horrible stuff that had happened to us. Most of us who died in prison, we were just erased from history. My beautiful, beloved Galis Duncan, who's one of my guides, she has her own Wikipedia page. If you go and look up Galis Duncan right now, she has a Wikipedia, and people still talk about her to this day. Why? Because her death was so shocking and awful and just heinous to the extreme. But there are other women who suffered just as much, if not more, than she did, and they don't have a Wikipedia page. They don't end up on a list somewhere. They just end up thrown out with the trash. That's a big wound to create for somebody, and you carry that with you through every lifetime you've had since then. It doesn't go away. The pain doesn't go away. It just gets suppressed. And then it ends up as lack of empowerment. It ends up as lack of self-love. Josie says, yeah, Galus is mentioned in Outlander. Don't even get me started on that. They did my girl so dirty in Outlander. Galus, the real Galus, was a healer. She was a phenomenal healer. In fact, she was such a good healer that the doctor she was working for said the only reason that she must be as good of a healer as she is because she's a witch. But in the show Outlander, she was actually a witch. Like, she was trying to sacrifice people and do all this horrible stuff in the show. The real Galus was a healer. And to be honest, I won't even watch that scene again because I don't want her to see what they made, you know what I mean? How they depicted her. It's just criminal. It really is. So, you know, people talk about Outlander. Outlander is triggering for me for that reason. So the stories that are told about us, most of them aren't true, or they've been changed or just completely altered to be dramatized, or they've been completely whitewashed. So anyway, that witch wound, I should say, the witch wound class is going to be a big one. It's going to be a very emotional one. And Carolyn has already agreed as well. She's going to help me do that because Carolyn also has a witch wound that she's working to heal. I don't think that pain ever truly completely goes away. I think it's one of those things that you carry with you. You may heal some of it, you know, but it becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of your story, a part of your soul history. And it can either hold you back or it can empower you depending on how you look at that experience. And for me, I use it as motivation. They say anger is a motivator, right? And I'm still angry about how I was treated. My inner Margaret is still pissed. Margaret did not appreciate getting locked in jail and starved to death and beaten and mistreated. And I even had flashbacks where they would bring food to the door and waft the smell of the food into the cells so we could smell the food. And they would laugh about it. Can you imagine doing that to somebody who hasn't eaten in months? Bringing your meal to the door and wafting it into the door so they could smell it? That's the kind of cruelty that we were dealing with. People talk about being burned at the stake. They don't talk about what happened leading up to that. Sometimes the year that they were imprisoned sometimes the killing is the mercy part. They have no idea what we went through. So just to put it into perspective, we aren't going to be going into all of the heinous stuff. I don't think it would be serving. I mean, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the guides think about it. Maybe we'll tell some of the stories, maybe not. But almost all of the witch wound stories I hear, I mean, it's gut-wrenching. It's horrible. There's a reason they called it the Dark Ages. So, will the class explain how you got the witch wound? I don't think the how is the important thing. In fact, sometimes the how ends up re-triggering the trauma and making it stronger and worse. So the how isn't really important as much as what we do with the healing aspect. You know? Thank you, Daisy. Yeah, when I had that flashback of them wafting the food into because it happened. I was tuning into a client, not even meaning to, and I started having flashbacks because we were clearing a client, and I start having flashbacks watching somebody be killed as a witch, and it triggered me, and I said something about it, and that's when the guides were like, no, you really are seeing it. And I said, well, I started to see other things popping up, and they said, it's Margaret. We're going to clear that out, and then the visions stopped coming through. So somebody else's witch wound triggered my witch wound, which made me start having visions. And it was sickening. So I'm not trying to trigger that within you guys. It might happen, it might not. If it does happen, we have the guides there to help you reintegrate it, to help you to kind of, work your way through it. So this is why I say, sometimes people want a little extra guidance in that regard in how they can heal it and remove it. And, I should say to come to terms with it, accept it, because this is a lot of the karmic baggage that many of us are holding on to. And it may not even be a witch wound. Just because, we're talking about witch wounds does not mean that people who weren't killed in the Inquisition wouldn't benefit from this. People who were Cathars, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. People who were killed during the Inquisition and people who were burned at the stake as a witch, it's the same trauma, just in a different aspect. And sometimes the trauma for the people in the Inquisition was just as bad, if not worse, considering how much torture they went through. I mean, we find people almost every day that were put on the rack, who were drawn and quartered, people who are still holding on to that to this day, people who were scalped. I mean, this is heavy, heavy trauma that does not go away. We just suppress it. And then it comes out when we have a similar trauma. If something happens to us in this lifetime that echoes what happened in the previous lifetime, you create a bridge between the two lifetimes, and bam, it's intensified. So all of this is work in progress. We're all working to kind of let go and heal and to forgive, so we're not carrying all of that baggage with us. And that's why we do these classes. So the reason we started with Reiki 1 is so that way you can kind of use that as a tool as you're working through all of these layers of healing. So for today, for example, if you were feeling like slightly triggered by some of what I was just talking about, send yourself love. Visualize just all of this love going into your heart chakra right now. And you can send love to the other versions of you through your heart. So you can see the child version of you that was punished for things that they didn't do, for example. Which could be triggering for something you didn't do in a past life too. You know what I mean? Like I said, bridging the gap between lifetimes. So you can send love to your child version of you. You can send it to your other versions existing of you in other realities. Jessica's reading my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say, Jessica. Yes. And let that other version know that they are loved and that they are safe. And even if they're not safe, you could be sending it to the other version of you that is standing on the gallows as we speak, because time doesn't exist. And just give yourself some comfort, some compassion, some love, and say, we're still okay. That other body was damaged, but I'm still here. They may have killed my body, but they didn't kill my spirit. I came back again stronger than ever. And you carry that baggage as a reminder. Many of us don't want to let the baggage down. It's almost like we've got like this nostalgia to the resonance of it. It's almost like if we put down the baggage, we put down that other version of ourselves, but that's not true. That version of us is always with us. And that's why it's so important for you to send love to the other versions of you who suffered. Because in another reality, in another timeline somewhere, they're still going through it. They're still healing that. So talk to that other version of you. Exactly, Catherine. Comfort them. Tell them they're loved. Tell them that no matter what they go through, they will always be safe and whole. They are never alone. And these things, it may take time. Healing happens in layers. And as we work through these layers, sometimes we find deeper and deeper buried pain. But the problem is that we suppress that pain for so long, it's become part of our identity. And through that, we end up creating things that are negative. Like I said, an imposter syndrome or a victim complex or a disempowered mindset. All because we're trying to avoid confrontation or avoid being harmed in a similar means. So just send yourself love. Be patient with your progress, because we're all making progress. You might see people who seem to be making more progress than you. They may not have as much baggage as you do. Think about it when you see people at the airport, right? You see people who are carrying so much luggage and they're moving through the airport and they're just covered in luggage. Do you expect that person to be able to run to their gate? So they have to be patient. And yeah, sometimes that baggage is because they don't want to let things go. It's not up to us to decide when somebody has to let go of their baggage. And we may look at people like they're just, like they're on those little floor, what do you call it? The floor pads where they're just, we might be one of those people carrying all this baggage and we see somebody just trucking along, easy riding down one of those little conveyor belt, you know what I mean? And they're just flying across the airport and we look at them like, must be nice. You don't know what that person went through to drop all their baggage, so where they're not carrying all that stuff. And the reason they're moving faster, it could just be that they did the healing that you're still working on. So, don't judge people for being behind or those who are moving so quickly. Just focus on where you're at because there's so much to be embraced in that moment. And be patient with your progress because you are making progress. As long as you're putting one step in front of the other, even if you're moving slowly, you're still making progress. And remember who won the race between the tortoise and the hare. That was my big rant for today. My lecture for the day. I'm going to go switch over to Astara in a moment so I can hang out with some of you guys on Zoom. I love that. I love being able to see you guys and talk face-to-face so I'm not staring at myself during that hour. So if you guys would love to join me on Astara, we would love to see you over there. So that is the name of our community, our online group that we have. It's called astaracommunity.com. And this is where we have a lot of our forums for our training, for our classes. We have a lot of chat forums on there. We've got a lot of hangout stuff. We've got a lot. It's just a wonderful little site where we have a lot of recordings and other things up there. So I hope you guys check it out, see what we have up there. Every Monday, we go on Astara to have a face-to-face Zoom chat. Cameras and microphones are optional. You don't have to come on camera. You can just hang out with us. But it's basically like a Zoom hangout where we just kind of chat face-to-face. We can have whatever conversations you guys like. No topic is off the... we can talk about anything you want. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we like to switch to Astara, so that way there's no holds barred, there's no censorship. Sometimes I have to watch what I say on Facebook for many reasons. So on there, we don't have to worry about any of that. And we can talk about anything you guys want. So if you guys are interested, hop on over. We usually spend about an hour on there on Mondays together, but you can come and go as you please. So that is the website if you would like to join us. And I will see some of you over there, and I'll see the rest of you tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be an evening podcast. On rare occasions, when I have a special guest, I do move up the podcast to a later time. Because my guest is Australian, Brett Eimer, who I've been talking about quite a lot recently. Brett is an amazing medium. He's also a military veteran. He's been through a lot himself, in this lifetime. So it's going to be a wonderful conversation to see how he went from being, an army brat, basically, into being a psychic medium who chases reptilians. So Brett is amazing. He also does Akashic record sessions. He's just a lovely human being. And I am so, so, so excited to introduce you to him. That will be at 5 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern time. So for those of you in Australia, that will be 8 a.m. Brisbane time. I don't know I know you guys have a lot of different time zones. It is, I believe, 8 a.m. in Brisbane. That is where Brett is located. So that's why we're doing it. So it'll be a little bit easier for him. Right now, Brett is sleeping. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning for them in Australia. So that's why I've moved it like way later in the day. So that way you guys can meet Brett, hear a bit about him and his work. And you're going to love him. He's just a wonderful guy. And then on Wednesday, we have Angelica coming on the podcast with Siddhartha. Angelica and Siddhartha will be on. We'll do a clearing. We'll hang out. Actually, you get a clearing on both days. If you would like a clearing, Brett will probably do one live on the podcast as well. And then on Thursday, I have another solo chat because Friday I am off. I will be traveling to go and visit Adriana in Grenada. We're going back to work on the books and a few other things and hang out with Adriana for about a week or so. So that is why it's going to be a slightly weird and shorter week this week. But I'm so excited to introduce you guys. It'll be wonderful to chat tomorrow. So I will see you guys at 5 p.m. Eastern time. That will be 10 o'clock, or actually 9 o'clock in the UK, 10 p.m. in Europe. So see you guys either on a star in just a moment, or I'll see you tomorrow. Love you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.